great pleasure to introduce Matthew Goddard. Matthew Goddard is the liaison for Michigan DEQ. In that role, he really interacts with all the other agencies within government and outside of government too on energy and pipeline and other kinds of related projects. And he's got a great set of experience. He's been with the department about 9 years in a variety of roles related to spill prevention, environmental emergency response, and NPDES discharge compliance. In 2016, he received the Governor's Leadership Excellence Award for his efforts in implementing the recommendations of the Michigan Petroleum Pipeline Task Force, which he staffs as well and provides leadership for. So, Matthew, thank you for joining us today, and welcome.
Thanks, everyone. I'd first like to say that I've been part of the planning commission for a conference for the last 5 years as well, so I know what it takes. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm going to talk about the Michigan Pipeline Task Force updates. So we'll go through a little bit of summary here. Talk about task force summary, the report, recommendations, review, updates on recommendations, what is next, and then if we have any questions. Got about 25 minutes. I'm going to burn through this pretty quickly. If I need to slow down, if there's any questions that go on, please just let me know. So the Michigan Pipeline Task Force was commissioned in June 2014 and went until July 2005. Comprised of 8 state officials from government agencies. Certain technical expertise and work groups were developed from additional staff from each agency. This was co-chaired by the DEQ director and the Attorney General. It's important to note that all the members of the Pipeline Task Force were State Department directors. The task force met 7 times between August 2014 and April 2015, and the work groups, which I was a part of, actually met more often that helped drive the task force. Gathered a wide range of information from external sources, NGOs, industry, federal agencies, tribal governments, and academia. So here's the goal of the task force. The goal of the task force was to identify and recommend actions within state government to protect public health, safety, and welfare of Michigan citizens and the environment related to the transportation of liquid petroleum products through major pipelines within the state. So that's a very important goal, because this goal for the task force, as John mentioned as a task force member, was honing in the scope. And what was the scope of the task force? Because many of us know pipelines carry more than just crude oil, gases, chemicals. So that was one of the first questions that was brought up is, are we going to address just petroleum products, or are we also going to bring on non-petroleum products? The task force felt that it was important to focus on one set of pipelines, and they went with crude oil pipelines. So here's if anyone's ever read the task force report before, there's the front cover of it for you. It was released in July 2015, so the task force commenced for about 1 year. So the big thing about the task force report is it's about 68 pages, but there's one page in there that drives everything that the state is doing right now. And that is a page of recommendations. There's 2 categories of recommendations. There's specific recommendations to the Enbridge Straits Pipelines. There's 4 of those. And then there's 9 recommendations for statewide petroleum and transportation pipelines. And so when you read through the Pipeline Task Force report and they talk about these recommendations, these are the 2 broad categories that they're broken down into. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through each one of these recommendations and let you know where we are at as far as implementing these recommendations. So the task force commenced, created a report. Now the state is moved forward and implement these recommendations. And as John mentioned, I'm the coordinator for that on behalf of the DEQ. The recommendations require multiple department interactions and relationships, and so it's important to have kind of a point person from each department to help implement the recommendations. So these are the 4 Straits Pipelines recommendations. I'm not going to go over each one of these right now because we're going to go over them specifically in each slide. So you're probably wondering why the green and yellow. That's to help you tell you what the status is of each of these recommendations. So the green means these are recommendations that we have completed. Yellow is ongoing. Blue are the ones that we got lined up for next. And red are the ones that we started, and there's been I don't want to say a major roadblock, but something that we need to address until we can move forward. It's good to say no, you're not going to see any blue ones. So we've touched on every single recommendation one way or another. So the first recommendation is prevent the transportation of heavy crude through the Straits Pipelines. This was done almost immediately because Line 5 through the Straits never carried heavy crude anyways. So this was an agreement that was made between Enbridge and the state of Michigan relatively quickly. It was completed on September 3rd, 2015. The agreement prevents transporting heavy crude through Straits Pipelines in the future unless the pipeline system is re-engineered. And so if you're familiar with crude oil and the categories of crude oil, there's categories 1 through 5. So Line 5 never carried category 5 oils, the heavy oils, and this agreement between the state and Enbridge basically solidified that, unless they go through massive re-engineering of the pipeline. And transportation of heavy crude oil would present an unreasonable risk of the ecological and economic harm. That was the basis for this recommendation. So next is require an independent risk analysis and adequate financial assurance for the Straits Pipelines. This is the big one that we're going through right now. Request for proposal was issued on February 22nd, 2016, with the deadline of April 20th. Interesting note about that, the deadline was actually 2 weeks before April 20th, but that was the time that Houston got flooded, and so we had a couple contractors ask for an extension because they literally couldn't make it to their office. A little bit of a side note. And then the picture there, how many people have done RFPs? Right, so we get the RFP, you get the proposal, you get the selection, and then you get the contract. So it seems like a pretty straightforward process, but those of you who've gone through it before, it's not so straightforward. So 4 contractors submitted proposals. The proposals were systematically reviewed by a state technical review team, which was comprised of technical experts from several state departments who reviewed all the proposals within 2 weeks. There's some of those members here today. And ultimately, the state chose Debt Varsity Veritas USA, which in short we would say DNVGL, and they are conducting our current risk analysis. The project officially began on August 29th, 2016. That's when the final statement of work was signed by both department directors and DNVGL. The draft report were expected this month. Number 3, required independent analysis of alternatives to the existing straight pipelines. Very much the same. Request for proposal. So the independent risk analysis and independent alternatives analysis ran side by side. So released RFPs at the same time, received submittals from contractors at the same time, reviewed by the technical expertise at the same time, and contracts were signed on the same day as well. So the state is actually implementing this project, the 2 analysis side by side. And then again, referring to the image, if anyone can't read that, have you finished reading through all those RFP responses yet? So again, if you've gone through an RFP process, you're reading thousands of pages in a matter of a couple of weeks. And so there's a state technical expert team that you can see up there in the 3rd bullet, comprised of 11 members. Once the contracts were signed and we entered into our agreements, that team got reduced down to a core team of DEQ, DNR, Michigan Agency for Energy, Department of Attorney General, staff members. There's 5 of us all together, 6 of us all together, and that team has been coordinating the analysis with the contractors since August. And finally, 4, obtaining additional information from Enbridge relating to Straits Pipelines. This technically could be a green one if we wanted to, because we've gone through several rounds of information requests to Enbridge and received information back. But the fact of the matter is that there's always more information to be needed in order to conduct these analysis. And so I just have it categorized as yellow for right now. Most likely probably until the analysis are done. So you can see up there we've had several requests. March 11, 2016, which Enbridge responded April 8th. Additional requests March of 2017. They responded later on that month. All the information that was requested is publicly available. Some of it is available on the Michigan Attorney General's website underneath the Pipeline tab, if you ever navigate to the site. And then also Michigan Petroleum Pipeline's website has this information as well. And I'll talk about the website a little bit later because that is a task force report recommendation. And then, as indicated there's been additional information for request and informal methods to Enbridge to help supplement the independent risk analysis and alternatives analysis. again, it's important to have good communication in order to get these projects done. All right, so we're going to move next into the statewide recommendations. So we're moving away from the Straits Pipelines. And these recommendations apply to all oil transportation pipelines around the state. And again, we're going to go through them all. So there's 9 of them. And we'll go through each one of these independently. As you can see, a couple red ones, no blue ones, which is good. So we'll go through each one of these, and we do have some that are completed. So the first is coordinate mapping of existing pipelines among state agencies. This sounds easy at the surface, but it's actually proved to be a difficult task. Basically, for the critical energy infrastructure complexity, there's a lot of energy infrastructure that is SSI sensitive material, and so we have to be cognizant of that fact while we build these databases of maps. And so that is something that we have to work around, and we're working with PHMSA on that to see if we can get a mapping system built specifically for state agencies. Existing projects are already in place. DEQ has wetlands databases, MSP has emergency response databases. So there's good launch points for this project. And it's just a matter of taking those independent projects and bringing those experts together, merging them all into one. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We have a good launching point, but we just need to kind of get it to lift off. Collective effort by the DEQ, DNR, Michigan Agency for Energy, and Michigan State Police GIS experts. And then one of the other big issues that we have to work through is security access and server location issues. I don't know how many people here are in state government, but the state of Michigan, our Department of Information Technology is not the easiest department to work with. So the next two, ensure state agencies collaborate on emergency planning and spill response, and ensure coordinated emergency response training, exercise, and drills. Again, these are two more that could be green as well. The state was always active in emergency response planning, but different departments were more active than others. So for example, the DEQ has been always very active, practicing with our federal partners for spill response exercise and planning. But some of the other departments, not as much. So DNR, we're starting to bring DNR in a little bit more as well into this planning process. And so the issue with these two task force report recommendations is what's the final product? Like when we are said and done and these are classified as green, what's that final product going to be? Is it going to be a report stating how we're going to move forward working together? Or is it just going to be something that's verbal saying, yeah, we do this? And so it's something that we have to evaluate and move forward. And then some examples of where we've coordinated after the task force report was released to say that we've actually completed this was the September 24th Straits of Mackinac full-scale exercise and the May 25th St. Croix River full-scale exercise. Jerry had those up on his slideshow yesterday. Those are just two of many examples. There's been many other exercises. Those are the two big ones that maybe a lot of people in this room have heard about. So the next is ensure regular state consultation with PHMSA on hazard liquid pipelines. Again, this is something that's been continually ongoing. So for those of you who don't know, the PSC is the Public Service Commission. They are tasked with doing a lot of the pipeline siting. They are tasked with doing pipeline siting in the state of Michigan. So that's just one of these recommendations, is to get that group talking with PHMSA. And so the recommendations were to require regular meetings and establish designated points of contacts. And so as mentioned there, and PSC must approve all oil siting in the state of Michigan. And that's actively ongoing right now too, that's why it's yellow. All right, for the good one now, consider legislation requiring state review approval of oil spill response plans, improve spill reporting and more robust fines, that's red. That bill was drafted, it was entered by Senator Lee Chatfield from the right where line 5 is at. Went into the Natural Resources House Committee, and we had some meetings about it last July. As of December 31st, 2016, it had died. Or it was still in committee, so in a sense it died. Why did it die? A couple reasons, but the biggest reason of all is it was election season. It just after we start getting into August and September of an election year, candidates go home, they start campaigning, the bills have been introduced to the legislator, in a sense, kind of take a back seat. So we think that's more or less what the issue was. We do know that there was some content in the bill that was being questioned by some stakeholders. And so right now it's kind of on hold until we can review the bill, see if we can work with legislators to reintroduce it, and then try to move forward with that. One of the things that might come out of it is that House Bill 5198 included mechanisms to require spill response and contingency plans to increase the civil fines and to have more robust spill reporting. And some of the feedback we got back, some of the feedback that we received from stakeholders was that maybe it might be easier to separate those out. Try not to put them all in one bill, maybe pull one out, and so that the bill might go through a little bit better. So those are some of the things that we are evaluating right now. And so why do we want more robust civil fines? The state civil fines are not equal to federal, so we want to be able to be at the same playing field as federal. And then also, the state doesn't require spill response plans for pipeline transportation companies right now. And so we simply just want to have a play in the game. We want to be able to review their plans as well. And the bill actually read that they could submit their federal response plans to be in compliance with this bill, And so the feedback we got from the oil transportation companies was actually pretty positive because they didn't have to draft anything. They would be able to submit their federal response plan. But still, this is something that we're going to work through. So that next one is evaluate whether to establish a hazardous liquid pipeline safety program in Michigan. There's actually been a tremendous amount of work committed towards this one. And it's moving along, but it's not moving along very, very quickly. So the key to this recommendation is to see if we can seek authorization from PHMSA to implement a liquids pipeline safety program. The state already implements a gas safety program, but we don't have a safety program for liquids pipelines. And so if we want to get that, you have to apply for delegation from PHMSA. And the issue is funding and program requirements. There's problems with attracting and retaining staff. Even in the gas safety program for the state of Michigan, in the last 6 years, there's been 100%, no, maybe it's 10 years. It's been 100% turnover in gas safety engineers. So it's hard to maintain a program when you have constant turnover. And if we already have constant turnover in one gas safety program, you know, what kind of work is it going to take to be able to maintain two programs, one for gas and one for liquid? And so then also there's the timeline to consider. As of right now, and this might be a little bit outdated, this is from 6 months ago, we were told that there's about a 3-year wait limit to get authorization to implement our own liquid pipeline safety program. And then lastly, budget implications. We'd have to apply for or ask for more revenue from the state legislator. So that's always never an easy task. So there's a lot to be done with this, with item number 6, this recommendation, but it is something that the state is actively pursuing. And then lastly, gaining stakeholder support. A lot of times when you implement a new program, a regulatory program, you want to make sure that the people you're going to regulate are somewhat okay with it. And if they're okay with it, you get that support behind you to go to the legislator and maybe ask for that additional funding. Number 7, consider legislation or rulemaking to improve siting process for new petroleum pipelines. This, in a sense, would update Act 16 or Act 9, and this has not moved forward. The state's still evaluating it. The suggested improvements are to clarify. The suggested improvements to those 2 acts would be to clarify information that's required in applications, enhance coordination between state departments such as PSC, DEQ, DNR, and enhancing provisions for public notice. Number 8, consider the executive order creating advisory committee on pipeline safety. Many of you are aware that this has been completed on September 13, 2015. Governor Snyder issued executive order creating the Michigan Pipeline Safety Advisory Board. Acts in the advisory capacity to the governor, and so that is a very important statement right there. There's a lot of confusion sometimes about the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board, and that the Safety Advisory Board is actually the group that commissioned the independent risk analysis and independent alternatives analysis. That's simply not true. the state of Michigan commissioned those reports, not the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board. The Pipeline Safety Advisory Board advised the state on drafting the RFPs. The advisory board had an opportunity to review the submittals and provide comments to us on the submittals. So that's an important distinction to make because it's often misunderstood what the play is with the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board in regards to the pending independent analyses that are coming out. It consists of 16 members. We won't go through them all right now, but most of them are state government agencies. A tribal representative, Homer Mandoka, who's going to be speaking here in a little bit. Regulated stakeholders and non-government agencies. I think we have 3 Pipeline Safety Advisory Board members here today. So far we've held 7 meetings, usually they're quarterly, and the next meeting is actually on Monday, up in Petoskey, Michigan. And there's a listserv available for updates. If any of you are interested, you can go to the website that I'm about to talk about next, and you can sign up for the listserv if you want updates about events of the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board. So last, create a continued petroleum pipeline information website. This is simply just a recommendation to allow more and free access to pipeline information to the citizens of Michigan. And so we created this website. It's been completed. It's used for the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board as well. So you can go there and see the meeting packets, the meeting schedules. But more importantly, this will be used as the main method for receiving public comments on the independent analyses when we release them this summer. Also, it's, as I just mentioned, it will be the platform that we release the reports on. So when we announce the release of the independent analyses, they will actually be posted to this website for the public to download and review. So what's next as far as implementing the Pipeline Task Force report recommendations? Right now, everything's all about getting these independent analyses done. They're a big focus of the 4 state departments. They're a big focus of a lot of NGOs. They're a big focus of many organizations across Michigan. And so that's what we're primarily focused on right now. The timeline is that we're going to release the reports this June. There's going to be a public comment period starting in July. That's going to extend into August. And then this fall, we will have the final reports. And then the other recommendation that we're going to be working on simultaneously is the pipeline mapping for the state coordination. That's the other one that we have active meetings on right now as well. So a little bit of a review for you. So there's 13 recommendations, 4 specific to Straits, 9 related to statewide implementation. And so when it's all said and done, we got 3 that are completed, we have 8 that are ongoing, and 2 that are on hold. So you might look at it and say, we don't have a very good batting percentage right now, right? But I'm confident that the good news is that we have touched on all of them in one way or another. And 8 of them are ongoing, and as I mentioned, some of those that are yellow could very well just be green. I think they'll just probably be considered completed once all the recommendations are done. So probably what people are really wanting to hear about from the state of Michigan is the alternative analysis review. I know I committed PowerPoint 101 mistake of putting too much words on the slide. Basically all this is, this slide right here is reviewing the 6 alternatives that the state is asking our independent contractor to analyze. And so you have, I'm just going to list them off the top of my head. Members of the team, if I forget them, let me know real quick. Independent engineering analysis of the existing pipeline, replacing the pipeline with newest technology, looking at alternate routes of building a new pipeline that do not cross the Great Lakes, looking at existing infrastructure, looking at alternative methods of transportation such as rail and truck, and then lastly, what we do consider an alternative is what if the pipeline was not there at all? So what would happen? What's that alternative? What would the environment look like? And when I say environment, economic, everything. So here's a little bit of kind of the framework of that project. The state is overseeing the contractors. Dynamic Risk is the primary contractor, and then they have several subcontractors that are helping them to conduct the analysis. Kelly Geotechnical was big in the hydrogeology review and geology review of replacing the pipeline. DHI Group is specifically just modeling, they're the ones who do all the modeling. And Stantec did pipeline engineering, and then Dr. Jack Rutenbeek was the economic analysis. So here's your summary status. Same thing I just said, June 2017. We'll start the public outreach strategy as soon as we release the reports. Here's a little timeline of the project. We won't go over that because it's really confusing. Risk analysis review. This is the main components of the risk analysis: define the worst case spill response, define the worst case spill impacts, and define the worst case spill cost. So this is for the risk analysis. This is being conducted by DNVGL, but this is a high-level overview of what they are analyzing. Here's the project team. The unique thing about DNVGL, they do not have any subcontractors. Everything is in-house. They're a 15,000 employee company. And this is the same slide as alternatives analysis, as I said. These are running side by side. Release will be in June, quickly followed by the public outreach strategy. Here's their schedule as well. And so then lastly, I believe this is my last slide, yes it is. Looking ahead, the public outreach strategy. You might ask, what is that? That is our strategy for gaining public comment on these contents of these draft reports. It's a super huge and important component of these analyses. And so the public comment period is going to start on July 6th and it's going to commence till August 19th. We're going to have one public information meeting. We are flying the contractors in and they're going to give professional presentations to the public with a Q&A to follow. That's going to be on June 6th, or July 6th, sorry, that's a typo. July 6th. And then we are holding 3 public feedback sessions. July 24th in Holt, Michigan in the morning, July 24th in the evening in Traverse City, and then July 25th in the evening in St. Ignace. And yes, you read that right. We are trying to do 2 public feedback sessions in one day. You might ask why. It's because these public feedback sessions are actually going to have some of the state departmental directors at these feedback sessions, which is a pretty big deal. And so these dates were driven around their schedule. And so if we wanted to do the most amount of public feedback sessions as we could, we had to group them together. So that's it. Another typo on there is my old job, sorry. So any questions? I know that was quick. I talked a lot of information there. Yes, Tim. Oh, sorry.
Tim Eater, Great Lakes Commission. That I can't remember your first recommendation, so I failed the test right off the bat. But the one that applied to the ones that applied to testing, or excuse me, the spill response exercises. Yeah, keep going a little bit. You were required to coordinate and practice. My question is, what did you learn, and what can you say about the adequacy of emergency planning and spill response? Do we have the equipment capability in place? It's great that you practiced and coordinated. What did you learn, and is it up to what it needs to be for as challenging conditions as we have in the Straits and ice and weather and so on?
Yeah, so if you understand spill response and the framework for spill response and incident command structure, most of your spills that are going to happen in the Great Lakes, those incident command structures and those responses are going to be ran by the federal government. So whether in the Straits, it's going to be the Coast Guard, they're going to be the lead with assistance from EPA, and the state will help support that framework. And so these 2 recommendations were more of an idea to increase the relationship with the federal agencies that would be acting in that capacity. Also training state staff to fill those roles and those positions within that framework. And then also just getting a better understanding of how a spill response framework works. As far as equipment and spill response capacity, that's all aspects of spill response that's driven by EPA and Coast Guard when they vet their on-scene response organizations. And so when an incident happens, they call their on-scene response organizations to bring in that equipment. And so is there an assessment of what's available in the Straits and what can be done? Yeah, there's a pretty good idea of what's available, time frames for them to come. how many people can they deploy in a certain amount of time. And actually, there is some components of the risk analysis that is evaluating that. And so the answer to your question is relatively yes. We want to know a lot about our capabilities.